Imagine moving into your dream home only to have an HOA Karen accuse you of stealing your own car, then discovering you secretly bought the entire block she's been terrorizing. Buckle up for a wild ride of petty rules, epic revenge, and a twist that'll leave her speechless. If you love jaw-dropping HOA drama, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss a single story. Let's dive into this crazy tale of power plays and sweet justice. The new homeowner, a quiet but sharp-witted software engineer named Ethan, stepped into the gated community of Willow Creek Estates with a mix of excitement and caution. He'd spent years saving for his sleek modern home, a corner lot with floor-to-ceiling windows and a pristine white Rolls-Royce parked in the driveway. The neighborhood was picture-perfect, manicured lawns, sparkling fountains, and rows of identical mailboxes. But Ethan had done his research. Willow Creek's HOA was notorious, led by a woman the online forums called Karen Supreme. Her real name was Deborah Klein, a middle-aged busybody with a clipboard always in hand and a knack for sniffing out rule breakers. Ethan wasn't here to cause trouble, but he wasn't one to back down either. He'd grown up in a rough neighborhood, clawing his way to success through late-night coding sessions and a relentless drive. This house was his victory, and he wasn't about to let anyone ruin it. On his first day, Ethan noticed Deborah patrolling the street, her eyes narrowing at every minor infraction: a slightly crooked mailbox, a lawn ornament half an inch too tall. She stopped in front of his house, scribbling furiously on her clipboard. Ethan watched from his window, amused but wary. He'd read the HOA bylaws cover to cover, ensuring his property was flawless. His grass was cut to the exact height, his trash bins were hidden, and his car was parked precisely within the lines. Still, Deborah lingered, her gaze locked on his Rolls-Royce. She snapped a photo, muttered something to herself, and marched off. Ethan shrugged it off. Maybe she was just admiring the car, but deep down he knew better. Trouble was brewing. The next morning, Ethan woke to a certified letter slipped under his door. It was from the HOA, accusing him of parking an unauthorized vehicle in his driveway. The letter claimed the Rolls-Royce violated Rule 17B, which prohibited commercial or ostentatious vehicles. Ethan chuckled at the absurdity. His car wasn't commercial, and if anything was ostentatious, it was Deborah's neon yellow sun hat. He fired off a polite email to the HOA board, attaching proof of ownership and a copy of the bylaws, which clearly allowed personal vehicles. He expected that to be the end of it, but Deborah wasn't done. By noon, she was back, this time with a tow truck trailing behind her. She stood on his lawn, arms crossed, as the driver hooked up Ethan's car. Ethan stepped outside, calm but firm, and showed the driver his registration. The tow truck left, but Deborah's face turned crimson. She accused Ethan of forging documents, claiming no one in Willow Creek could afford a car like that without shady dealings. Ethan didn't argue. He simply smiled and went back inside. What Deborah didn't know was that Ethan had a secret, one that would turn her world upside down. Over the next week, Deborah escalated her campaign. She sent daily letters, each citing a new violation. His doorbell was too loud, his windows too reflective, his mailbox too modern. Ethan complied where he could, swapping out the doorbell and toning down the window tint, but he knew this wasn't about rules. Deborah was marking her territory, asserting dominance over the new guy. Neighbors whispered about her reign of terror, how she'd find a family for their kids' chalk drawings, how she'd banned a retiree's rose garden for attracting bees. Ethan wasn't surprised. He'd dealt with bullies before, but what set him apart was his strategy. While Deborah thought she was playing checkers, Ethan was playing chess. He'd been quietly working on something big, something that would shift the power dynamic in Willow Creek forever. One evening, Ethan sat at his desk, laptop glowing with spreadsheets and property records. He wasn't just a homeowner. Over the past year, he'd been buying up properties in Willow Creek through a discreet LLC. The neighborhood was undervalued, and Ethan saw opportunity where others saw only picket fences. He'd purchased 6 homes so far, all under market value, from owners fed up with Deborah's tyranny. His plan was simple but audacious: control enough properties to influence the HOA board. He wasn't there yet, but he was close. Every time Deborah sent another ridiculous fine, Ethan's resolve hardened. He wasn't just fighting for his Rolls-Royce anymore. He was fighting for every neighbor she'd bullied, every family she'd driven out. but he needed to be patient. Deborah was relentless, and her next move would push him to act sooner than he'd planned. By the end of the month, Deborah's attacks had become a neighborhood spectacle. She'd posted flyers on every lamppost accusing Ethan of stealing his car and bringing undesirable elements to Willow Creek. The flyers included grainy photos of his Rolls-Royce, captioned with wild claims about his criminal background. Ethan was unfazed. He'd already hired a lawyer to draft a cease and desist letter, but he held off sending it. He wanted Deborah to dig her own grave, and she did. One morning, she organized a neighborhood watch meeting in the community center, rallying residents to protect Willow Creek's values. Ethan didn't attend, but he heard every word through a neighbor's live stream. Deborah ranted about his car, his house, even his suspicious late-night coding sessions. She demanded a vote to fine him $5,000 for community disruption. The vote passed barely, with her loyalists strong-arming the room. Ethan knew it was time to make his move. The next chapter of this saga would be one Deborah never saw coming. Ethan's next steps were calculated and precise. He spent days finalizing his acquisitions, securing 2 more properties in Willow Creek. With 8 homes under his LLC, he now owned nearly a third of the neighborhood. This gave him leverage but not control yet. The HOA board consisted of 5 members, including Deborah, who ruled with an iron grip. Ethan's research revealed that 2 board members were growing tired of her antics. They were potential allies, but they needed a push. Ethan began reaching out to his new tenants, all of whom had their own horror stories about Deborah. One renter, a single mother, had been fined for her son's skateboard left on the porch. Another, an elderly veteran, was threatened with eviction over a flagpole Deborah deemed too patriotic. Ethan listened, documented everything, and promised change. He wasn't just building a property empire. He was building a coalition. Meanwhile, Deborah doubled down. She filed a formal complaint with the city, claiming Ethan's car was part of an illegal car flipping scheme. The city inspector, a no-nonsense woman who'd dealt with Deborah before, visited Ethan's home. After a quick review of his documents, she dismissed the complaint and warned Deborah about wasting city resources. Humiliated but undeterred, Deborah turned to social media, posting in the Willow Creek Facebook group about Ethan's disrespect for community standards. Her posts backfired. Neighbors, tired of her tirades, began commenting about her own violations, like the unapproved gazebo in her backyard. Ethan stayed silent, letting the community's frustration simmer. He knew public opinion was shifting and he was ready to strike. Ethan's lawyer sent the cease and desist letter, citing defamation and harassment. Deborah ignored it, instead organizing a petition to ban luxury vehicles from Willow Creek. She went door to door, badgering residents to sign. Most refused, fed up with her bullying. Ethan, meanwhile, met privately with the 2 dissenting board members. He revealed his ownership of 8 properties and his plan to reform the HOA. They were skeptical but intrigued, especially when he offered to lower rents for his tenants if they supported a board overhaul. The pieces were falling into place. Ethan's final acquisition was the key: the community center itself, which he'd bought from a cash-strapped developer. Deborah had no idea the ground was shifting beneath her. The annual HOA board election was approaching, and Ethan saw his chance. He nominated his 2 allies for board seats, quietly campaigning among residents. He didn't reveal his ownership yet, that was his trump card. Deborah, oblivious, continued her crusade, now accusing Ethan of bribing neighbors with fake promises. Her paranoia was her undoing. At the election meeting, tensions boiled over. Residents aired years of grievances, fines for trivial violations, threats over harmless decorations, Deborah's relentless micromanaging. Ethan's allies won their seats, tipping the board's balance. Deborah's face paled as the votes were tallied. She demanded a recount, but the room was against her. Ethan stood up, calm and composed, and announced he'd be running for president at the next meeting. The room buzzed with shock and curiosity. Deborah stormed out, vowing to fight back. But Ethan was already planning his final move, one that would leave her powerless. Ethan's reveal was a masterstroke. At the next HOA meeting, he arrived with a stack of property deeds and a projector. As Deborah ranted about protecting Willow Creek, Ethan took the floor. He displayed documents proving he owned 8 homes in the community center. Gasps filled the room. He explained his vision: A new HOA with fair rules, lower fees, and no petty tyranny. He proposed dissolving the current board and holding a special election. The crowd erupted in applause. Deborah, cornered, tried to argue, but her allies abandoned her. The vote to dissolve the board passed overwhelmingly. Ethan was elected interim president, tasked with rewriting the bylaws. Deborah's reign was over. In the weeks that followed, Ethan transformed Willow Creek. He slashed unnecessary fees, relaxed draconian rules, and created a tenant council to give renters a voice. His Rolls-Royce, once a symbol of Deborah's obsession, became a neighborhood joke. Residents posed for selfies with it, calling it the car that broke the HOA. Deborah sold her home and moved away, unable to face her former kingdom. Ethan, now a local hero, settled into his role not as a ruler but as a steward. His block was his, not just in deeds but in spirit. Willow Creek was finally free. Thanks for diving into this wild HOA saga. If you loved this epic takedown, hit that like button, subscribe, and share your own crazy neighbor stories in the comments. Stay tuned for more drama, and we'll see you in the next one.